self-love is a big one. Often when I work with folks too, like another core is like really getting into the self-love space. That may take some more time, but it's generally usually a flavor that's in there. And again, like this woman I was just with, she felt hopeless. She said, my intention is to enjoy the next few decades of my life, but I don't feel like I will. I haven't been feeling that way at all. And then in the session, she was saying, I feel happy. I'm on my path.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
hopeful again.
What a shift.
Huge. And that happened in 30 minutes.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Love, Loss, and Hallucinations. I have a very special, interesting, intriguing, wonderful human as a guest today. Her name is Marisa Radha Weppner. She has a BA in psychology, a master's in transpersonal psychology. She's a somatic experiencing practitioner, a DJ, an author, a teacher, a minister. You got a lot of hats, and there's a couple more. Psychedelic therapist, community organizer, life coach, podcaster, entrepreneur. And if that's not enough, she is also a mother to two wonderful kids. Welcome, Marissa.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott. It's a delight to be here.
Yes.
Really, such an honor.
Thanks so much for joining us from Boise, which is where she is hanging her hat at the moment, her many hats. And I just seeing this wall somewhere in the house. It just has a bunch of hats on it.
We have a wall like that. Yeah.
And it just, each hat has its own little label and you trade them as needed. I think I wanted to start because around the themes of love and loss and hallucinations for that matter, I was hoping you wouldn't mind telling the story of where you got your name Rada, because I feel like it's a story that's centered in love and joy, despite also being tied up with some loss.
I'd be happy to share. Yeah. I was with my, at the time, new boyfriend. It was June of 2018, and we were in Maui at Ram Dass's house. And he was recording the Ram Dass album that became East Forest Ram Dass. And so that's East Forest, who's also known as Krishna now, but at the time he was known as Trevor. And, yeah, it was a really special moment in our life and relationship because we came into our relationship loving Ram Dass individually. And then he had this idea. I remember him sharing with me, I want to record Ram Dass for an album, but I don't know if it's going to happen. And I just knew immediately. I said, it's definitely going to happen and I'm going with you. And so fast forward a few months later, it was happening.
Wow.
And he had gotten there a few days before me. I had wanted to be there the whole time, but the only thing that would have been more important is my children. And my son was graduating kindergarten. It was like his kindergarten graduation, which I felt like I couldn't miss.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to stay for that, and I'll meet you in a few days. And so he got there early, and he had met a man named Vishnu Das, who shared that he got the name Vishnu Das from Ram Dass. And Trevor, at the time, was really intrigued by that.
Just quickly, I'm just going to ask you to just give a little background on Ram Dass for those out there who don't know him.
Oh, who doesn't know Ram Dass? Yeah, Ram Dass is, in my world, he is one of the first American spiritual teachers, like purely American from within, like, I guess Emerson, Ralph Waldo Emerson, you could think of someone like that, but more modern. He was an early psychedelic pioneer and researcher at Harvard who had many, 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 many psychedelic experiences when it was legal and was doing research on it with his buddy Tim Leary, and then it became illegal. And they were trying to find for many years how to stay in this psychedelic state, which no matter, he says, how many combinations they tried of this or that with everything else, they always came down. So eventually he went to India in search of teachers or guidance or more of a way inward that wasn't relying solely on substances. Right. And when he was there, long story short, I can make stories real long. I'm going to make it short. Long story short, he met a man, Bhagavan Das, who took him to his guru, who was Maharaji. And Ram Das, right in the moment of meeting Maharaji, who's also known as Neem Karoli Baba, had a very profound experience of unconditional love that totally blew him open and changed the entire trajectory of his whole entire life. And ended up staying for a while and learning different various spiritual practices. And then eventually Maharaji said, "You're going back." So he came back. Luckily. And he came back as Ram Das. Maharaji gave him the name Ram Das. Ram meaning the god Ram in the Hindu pantheon, who's an incarnation of Vishnu, and Das meaning servant of. So his name means the servant of Ram.
Yeah, he was really one of the first people to bring back like the wisdom teachings as a Westerner to, from India, Hindu, that whole culture back to America.
So he was such a great bridge for the Westerners because he had this amazing intellect and Harvard-based, science-based mind, and then seeped now in psychedelics, expanded consciousness, and Hindu spirituality and practices. And so then he started to travel around and lecture. So he's got all these lectures that are out.
I would definitely recommend, if anyone's interested, listening to his podcast or the organization.
Here and Now.
Here and Now. A lot of great lectures and wisdoms from all the years. So fast forward to now he's living in Hawaii, and you and East Forest are going over there to visit him.
Yeah. And I'll tell you a quick little story too. A Ram Dass story. My own personal Ram Dass story is he wrote a book, Be Here Now, which is also one of our great spiritual texts, American spiritual texts that blends, these two worlds, East and West. And when I was 22, someone said to me, "Had you heard of Ram Dass?" And I said, "No, I don't know who Ram Dass is." And they said, "Oh, well, check out the book, Be Here Now." And I was like, "Okay." So I filed it away. And fast forward, like 2 months later, I was in a used bookstore in Gastown in Vancouver, Canada. And it like never-ending story style bookstore with just like books piled everywhere and chaos and a mess. And this old man sitting behind all these piles of books. And I walked in and I pulled the book off the shelf. And then I was like, "Oh yeah, I should look for Be Here Now." And I went to the old man behind the desk. And this is like 2001. And I asked if he had the book, and whatever system of record keeping he has, he looked into and told me no, that he didn't have it. I was like, oh, okay. So then I'm wandering around the bookstore more. And then I was like, oh, I should go back to the book that I pulled off the shelf right when I walked in. And I walked back to it and I pulled it back off the shelf and it was Be Here Now.
What?
What? Exactly. Exactly. And I bought that copy. That was my first copy of Be Here Now. It was this old, original copy of Be Here Now that I've since given away. I've bought and given away Be Here Now probably 24 times.
Right. It's definitely one of those books.
Yes. Yeah. So that was my introduction to Ram Dass. And then Be Here Now just blew me open. And then that way that it had come to me too was just so magical. So fast forward, and we're in Ram Dass's study. And so for both Trevor and I at the time, this was like a monumental experience.
Yeah.
And he had just finished recording. Well, going back to Vishnu Das, he had said Ram Dass gave him a name, and Krishna, well, not that Trevor at the time, said, "I'm kind of interested in that. I think I want to ask Ram Dass for a name." And we're talking on the phone, and I'm like, "Yeah, babe, do it. That sounds great. You should definitely ask for a name if you want to." And I didn't really feel that drawn to that because I had a yoga teacher that gave me the name Mohini, and Baba Haridas that gave me the name Anandita. So I was like, I'm name rich,
You're named out. You got it.
you get a name. I fully support that. So we got finished recording the last day, and this was the moment. And Krishna leaned down next to Ram Dass and asked in this way that was kind of loquacious if he could have a name. And Ram Dass acknowledged him and then just went back to staring out into the ocean. And I was sitting in front of Ram Dass in another chair where Krishna had been sitting when he was recording him, but now he was packing up the gear. So I was sitting across from Ram Dass. And time goes by. Maybe it's like 30 seconds to a minute, but it probably feels like eternity to Krishna.
Yeah, because he's made this big request, which is awkward to ask in the first place.
So awkward. But not awkward at the same time and normal in this world. And someone was in the living room playing kirtan. So there was this chanting going on in the background, Hindu chants. And Ram Dass turns to Krishna after maybe, let's say, a minute, and he says, Krishna. And Krishna stops and he looks confused and he says, oh yeah, they're singing in the living room. And Ram Dass says, no, Krishna. And he still looks confused. And then I say, he's giving you your name. And then he gets down and he says what I think is the funniest thing, because I know who Krishna is also. And like, he's a very singular, powerful, amazing deity. And Krishna then says to Ram Dass, just Krishna? like Sting or Cher? He wanted to make sure it wasn't, there was another word that he didn't get. And then doubts his whole life. So, yeah. And there's Krishna Das and there's other things And so he's like, just Krishna. And when he said that to Ram Dass, I then felt internally, he's about to tell me my name is Rada.
Oh, you felt that before he even said it?
I felt it before he even said it. And I hadn't even asked for a name.
Yeah.
But I knew it like a lightning bolt. And then he's like, yes, just Krishna. And then he looks at me and he says, and you are Rada. And then he slaps his thigh and then he leans back and he just starts laughing like it's the funniest thing in the whole world. And I knew what that meant because Radha and Krishna are partners and beloveds.
Okay.
They're sacred partners in Hindu mythology.
Yeah.
And so, getting to your love and loss, we had been, Krishna and I, in previous marriages. And so married, divorced, and it was a little while later, a year or so for both of us. And we're getting into this new relationship. And in my prior marriage and in my life, because of my family history and upbringing, I'm someone who's really independent. And I've always kept myself quite independent and quite protected. Even when I was married before, there was just like this part of me that was reserved. I didn't trust fully.
Right.
I didn't trust partnership fully. I didn't trust. It was hard for me to be really vulnerable and really give all of myself.
Not easy.
Not easy. So when he said, you're Rada, that for me was him saying to me, you can be different in this relationship.
Wow. Almost like giving you permission to be different.
Giving me permission. And also it's like encouragement.
Yeah.
Like
that's a better word. Yeah.
You can do this. You can be a Rada. You can be fully devoted to your partner and feel safe in that really intense companionship that's full on.
Right.
And I had never let myself do that before.
And what were you able to then let yourself do that? Or
well, here we go.
I can't imagine it's like a night and day transition.
I was
overnight
able
transition.
to a lot easier.
Interesting.
I was able to a lot easier, just like surrender into trust. Like you can trust this relationship, you can trust this person, you can be all in. And so then, like in my life prior, I'm super independent woman. Like you said in the beginning, I've got all these things that I do, this jack of all trades, and like fearless in a way of like, I'm just going to do this thing. And then I was coming into East Forest world where he's a thing and we're doing things together. But in that, I am supportive of him most of the time, which is not how I am in every other aspect of my life.
That was the learning you had to lean into, it sounds like, perhaps.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I get great benefit from it, too.
Yeah.
There's so many wonderful things that come out of our partnership that absolutely serve me and serve us, but it's a different role than every other area of my life.
Yeah. Well, and I'm curious, like, what what have you learned from that role? How has it served you in a way that you were not expecting?
Well, one, the, how should I say it? It's, there's a piece of service,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
and I like that. There's a piece of letting go, which is helpful. Trust
Mm.
also, like trusting another person's vision too, and not always being the captain of the ship.
Right.
And so being like, I don't know, co-captain, or we call each other co-pilots a lot. But, like he just finished this film, Music for Mushrooms, and it was so much his vision and things that he would get kind of worked up about, or like
Yeah.
a real stickler about. This is his personality too. He can get real perfectionist, like just clear vision, where
Mm.
I can be more like, whatever, doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. So what I learned even in that creative experience is, oh, he was right.
Mm.
A lot of the times he was right in the way that it needed to be this way.
Right.
He
Huh.
was right.
Like, just there are times where you have to like be the boss, delineate,
Yeah.
see the vision, and be the person to execute it.
And he's that in spades.
Yeah.
So trusting that, it's like this level of like, of just like that trust support blend, and believing
Mm.
in, and like, and then also letting go of my own agenda.
Which is also kind of a nice, once you're able to do that, to let go and just be like, okay, that's its own sort of freedom, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And is that, do you feel now that the movie's done? I mean, that was a huge project, obviously. Do you feel, and these lessons you're learning along the way, has it made you two closer, or or had a
We have a
deeper
really
connection on
deep
some way?
relationship.
Yeah.
We have a super deep relationship. And I think that's just how both of us tend to be.
Mm.
And so we match each other in that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And both of us are very, very sensitive on all kinds of different
Hmm.
levels. So we're incredibly close. Yeah, sometimes maybe it's the ability to pull out more, which he speaks to. It's easier for me to
Hmm.
like pull out and be autonomous and be like, peace out, and go do my own thing. Where that gives him more anxiety.
Interesting. Yeah. But you
He
still need,
says,
yeah, he's according to him.
according to him.
And but yeah, so for you, it's this balance of like being sort of intra-dependent, but also finding your own independence when you need it to like make
Yeah,
for a
that's easy for
fuller,
me.
yeah, make for a fuller relationship.
It's
Um,
harder to have the interdependence. That's much, much harder for me.
hmm, huh. And any tricks that you use to handle that now, or is it more the mantra again? Earlier you were saying like you kept saying just trust, and that was almost sounding like a mantra to me as you were kind of learning to lean into that.
Yeah, I think because he and I both experienced such loss and pain, divorce and breakup, they're so painful.
Mm,
Even when
mm-hmm,
it's correct and the right path, it hurts so much that coming into this relationship together, we both definitely wanted to be better partners, and
mm,
are better partners, and are way more attentive
mm,
and giving and loving and generous, both of us, in so many ways, because we want our relationship to last.
mm. Well, that's beautiful. Do you in a way consider that as hard and as difficult as the divorces, or we'll just speak to you since I'm speaking to you, as hard as the divorce was, even though it was the right choice, do you feel like that's a gift it's given you after the
Oh,
fact?
yeah,
Mm.
totally, for sure. And my marriage and the things that my husband before, my ex-husband gave me, my first husband is how you're supposed to say it, not your ex. My first husband, that was so helpful. There were so many things he did for me
Mm-hmm.
that I benefited from. And then coming into this, for sure, so many lessons, learned what all the things I was missing or could have done better
Mm,
that were my own faults, that I was bringing from, really childhood.
yeah. Which those aren't easy to see.
Mm-mm,
Did you have any
mm-mm.
methods or assistance or ways that like allowed you to see some of those faults?
Therapy,
Therapy.
good therapists, psychedelics,
Mm,
psychedelic journeys. Those are
hmm.
a big one. Self-reflection, too. I feel like when I was younger, when you're a child, you don't realize the childhood you've had.
Mm,
It's just like
hmm.
normal. And only with time and age and distance can you look back and be like, wow, that was kind of weird. Or what was really going on there? Or
Yeah.
that probably wasn't healthy. And so, almost the more time I've had away from my childhood, I thought I knew a lot in my 20s and 30s. Lots. I thought I was so good. And then I got towards my 40s and I realized how much I didn't know and how much shadow I still had, meaning just like the things I wasn't aware of
Yeah.
about my life.
Yeah.
And so, shadow work being a big piece.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that since, I was reading about that on your website. And tell us a little more about shadow work. Like, what do you mean by that?
Well, it's kind of can sound scary because of the word shadow, and you might think of like I'm working with this giant shadowy being, but what it actually is, at least in the work that I do, is parts that you don't know.
Mm,
And in your shadow, there can be even treasures and gifts and amazing parts of yourself that you've denied or shut away for various reasons. So it's
hmm.
not like all bad parts that you've pushed down, but really positive things too. So it's what at the time, for whatever reason, you didn't have the capabilities to process or deal with or integrate. So it's like all the unintegrated
Hmm.
past. And it's not just personal lineage now, but ancestral, transgenerational, collective, global, societal. We have a global shadow.
Yes.
The US has a shadow.
Multiple
Relationships have
multiple layers.
multiple layers.
Multiple
So
layers of
it's
shadow.
what is not integrated.
Uh-huh.
What do you not even know about? You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. I'm wondering, like, do you feel that these shadows are created, um, as you said earlier, about, shadow in part because something comes up that you can't deal with, so you sort of repress it or push it down. Um, do you feel like there's any sort of loss around not trying to connect with these shadows now that, say,
Yeah,
we're older?
absolutely. There's parts of self that are lost for
Mm,
sure. They're locked away. And I trust in timing
mm,
too.
mm-hmm,
Like I feel like a shadow piece will begin to reveal itself when it can be integrated,
mm,
when you're ready to integrate it, when you have the tools now,
yes.
where before you didn't. That's all. It's not like most of the time it's unconscious. You're not choosing to overlook something or push something down. It's a survival strategy. And you,
Right.
in that moment, actually did need that to happen to get through whatever it was. What happens though in survival strategies or defense mechanisms, they then become part of our personality
Hmm.
and who we think we are. I'm just somebody that's independent. I'm just somebody that doesn't need anybody else to help me,
Right.
right? That's a defense mechanism
Yep.
and it's
That would be
costing
one of
me.
mine. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's recognizing that and then going back. When I work with people, clients, I love just getting to the root of it.
Mm,
I go like as deep as I can
yeah.
and we just get in it and bring it to light, bring it to surface. And then that's how you can begin to integrate. And often then it dovetails into inner child work.
Mm, yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. It all reminds me of, I just actually read this memoir, The Tell
Hmm.
by Amy Griffin. Griffith?
Hmm.
Griffin. It's right over here. And exactly as you were saying, like the shadow will present itself when you're like psychologically, physically able to handle it. And it was really interesting. Her case was she went to do her first MDMA session after never doing any mind expanding substances, really. And I won't say what happens, but she doesn't like it doesn't even hit. And this memory comes up. She puts it in her mouth, she swallows it, and immediately this memory comes up. And, it was a big one. So I recommend that book if people are interested in an example of a shadow showing up in when you can handle it, even if it doesn't seem like you can handle it in the moment.
But you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. It won't be more than you can handle. Yeah. And it takes time, and it's helpful to have some help generally.
Yeah.
Too.
And what's on the positive side of that for your clients that you've seen?
I mean, healing of like deep defensive strategies. I mean, people are often like they'll come in and it's like depression, anxiety, or having been haunted by different aspects of themselves and not being able to deal with different aspects of themselves, or knowing like I know it's kind of the sense of like not in 100%, but it's like I know I'm kind of the problem. Like I'm not handling these situations appropriately, but it's how I've always been doing it.
Yeah, it's gotten to the point where you can't blame other people. Like you're finally like, oh, it's me.
And so the positive side of it is what a trigger is the unintegration. That's like a clue that something is unintegrated. And so when you integrate, you no longer have the trigger. You are no longer dysregulated by a person, a place, a thing, a phrase, a saying. So things are more neutral. You're more peaceful. You're more peaceful in your everyday life.
Yes.
Which I think is a huge benefit. And you're able to then be at choice versus reaction. Before you, it was all a reaction, how you were handling things. Just like things snap into place so quickly of, those old patterns. So the old patterns begin to dissolve.
And as you said, like just allowing that stuff to dissolve and not react. I mean, it's just much more peaceful, grounded way to walk through life.
Totally.
Not that I don't get triggered, but.
And it happens in a more natural way where you're not fighting yourself.
Yeah.
Of like, trying to convince yourself to not be upset about something that you're clearly upset about. That's hard. This then what occurs is it just doesn't really bother you anymore.
Right.
Not and to the same degree.
I'm curious, are you, when you're working with your clients around shadow work, is this as a life coach? Is it with being a ketamine therapist? Is it both? Is it everything?
Ketamine therapy, life coaching, the somatic experiencing is a big piece. And then I've kind of developed a modality that's a little bit of what's called IFS, or internal family systems, and blending that with the somatic experiencing, and then blending that with just some like intuition too. Like I'll get real clear images when I'm working with people, or senses, or felt senses, or understanding. So it's like I'm learning more to trust myself to bring that in, which when I do, it seems to be always really right and helpful. In traditional therapy, you're trained to just sit and listen. Right?
Yeah.
Just sitting and listening. But I'm getting really clear things, messages for people, or understandings. So I allow myself to do that more and be a bit more active and a bit more direct with people than it would be in traditional therapy.
And that's really interesting. And I also find it just interesting because, we are all connected in some way, and you're sharing like the energy of this space with this person. So, this may be not, as you said, traditional psychology or something like that, but to allow whatever it is to come through you. Like I was just talking to this musician the other day, and he was talking about how these songs just come through him. He's like, I don't know where they come from. And I feel like, why would that not be the same when you're like talking to someone in a space like this, where you're have that deep, centered connection? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also, so when you're working with clients, is it a matter of, do they come to you for one of your modalities or another, or are you just kind of presenting them all as needed?
I
And I'm
present
wondering,
them all as needed, but not in a like, we don't really talk about it, it just occurs.
mm-hmm,
So it's a situation where we're real present with each other. And
mm-hmm,
oftentimes it's on Zoom, but sometimes it's in person, and sometimes it's even on the phone. And the phone can actually be really comforting and great for some people.
mm-hmm,
And we're talking, and then I can sense when they this something is shifting in their physiology. And when I sense that, I usually have them slow down, and then we take that as like the gateway. That's the
mm,
somatic experiencing piece into the body. And then I'm mostly coaching them on how to stay present with it. And then things will really quickly unfold, and we're tracking what's
mm-hmm.
unfolding.
Oh,
And
wow.
then that's when the IFS, the internal family systems, may come in some. And then usually we'll get to like some deeper layer core, like the core of whatever the original thing was.
Mm-hmm.
And then we begin to integrate it,
And,
which is done with different kinds of visualizations and the
okay.
body.
Yeah. And the body, so like the somatic component can be so, I mean, the body, I'm not the first person or the last person to say this, but the body remembers
It's
everything.
so cool. The
It's
body's so
so,
cool. Yeah, the body remembers everything. So my first career was as a yogi. I've been
mm,
teaching yoga for over 25 years, and I chose yoga. I was in love with psychology, and I was in love with spirituality. And my life mission from like late teen till now is how do we become the best humans possible? Like
mm,
what is the heights of our human potential? And when I was studying that with psychology and different forms of spirituality, a lot of it being like book stuff, and then I just took I had got a yoga book that I was actually doing by myself in my room in college. And I was doing this practice all on my own, and began to notice how I was changing
mm.
without effort through doing these yoga practices. So it
Wow.
dawned on me then that yoga was like this sneak attack way of becoming better. Like people think they're going to go to a yoga class to get fit or whatever, or feel better, but their whole life will transform
Right. And
if they're
speaking of being
committed.
very body oriented and body aware, for people who have not ever done that, have taken time to just feel their body, like yoga can give that doorway in a safe way.
Absolutely. It is. That is it.
Yeah.
That is it. So, yes. Yeah.
What else do you love about yoga?
It's a spiritual technology.
Mm,
The ancient yogis, they were like how in the West we have the heights of external science.
hmm
The East was the heights of internal science.
mm,
If we do this with our consciousness or our attention or our breath or our body, our human vehicle is capable of really incredible things,
mm.
way beyond normal human every day to day. So
Yeah.
the what excites me and what I love about it is like limitless potential that's within me to unlock when I give myself time and patience and practice.
Mm. Amongst all your many hats, to give yourself this time to practice.
Well, what I love now is like I'm a real bhakti yogi, which Ram Dass was as well, which
What
I
does that
think
mean?
bhakti's devotional. So bhakti is like love.
Mm.
Love is it. Love and service. And a way that you can get to ecstatic states or heightened states is through chanting a
Oh,
lot of the
okay.
time. And
Okay.
that was what he was, a part of it was that practice for him. And he had his teacher, Maharaji, who was his form of devotion, or Hanuman, the monkey god. And so it's turning it all over to love and service
Mm.
and God.
Wow. As I think your podcast is called Love, Service, Freedom. Is
Love,
that right?
service, wisdom.
Love, service, wisdom. Typo.
Yeah, love, service, wisdom. It's okay. I had that podcast, and it wasn't until later, after I had my podcast, Love, Service, Wisdom, that I realized Ram Dass has the Love, Serve, Remember
Yes.
Foundation.
Oh, you didn't know that beforehand.
I was not thinking of that at all, or otherwise I probably wouldn't have named it so close.
Hmm.
But it is.
Another one of those interweavings,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Ram Dass again because I did want to get back to uh, he gives you your name, but at this point he had had a stroke, and you know, I think it was a couple years after that he passed
Hmm.
away, or
The stroke was about 20 years earlier.
oh that oh yeah
It was a long time earlier, and he had been in Hawaii for like those 2 decades because it
uh,
was hard for him to travel. His health wasn't very good, especially not around then. That was 2018. And so he left his body a year and a half later. It was December
after you met him.
22nd, 2019.
Yeah.
So between that first meeting and when he had what we call Maha Samadhi, it was like a year and a half, and we had gotten to be with him, I think 4 or 5 times.
Mm. Wow. Wow. That's amazing. So what was it? I mean, how did it hit and land when he did pass?
Oh my goodness. I remember I was at a Christmas party. It was like a Christmas solstice party. And somehow, maybe somebody texted Krishna, and I just started weeping. And then
Mm,
we left. And then I remember being in bed, and I think I just cried all night long.
mm,
It was like my dad had died. It was
yeah.
just one of those just absolute heartbreaks.
Yeah.
But I knew it was going to happen because we were with him a few weeks prior in Maui at the Ram Dass retreat. And I knew then it was almost like he was barely still in his body,
Yeah.
is how it seemed then.
Wow. Yeah. And I mean, I can only imagine sort of the presence he must have had even up till that last time.
That retreat in early December, the very first night, the opening night, we're in this big outdoor Hawaiian palm frond palapa, and there's maybe like 500 people there, and it's dark. And he's in a wheelchair, and they bring him out onto the stage, and there's just like a singular light on him,
Mm,
and he just sits there, and the quality of the presence in the space, at least how it felt to me. The only way I can describe it is in some of my deepest meditations, there's a thickness.
mm,
It's like thick, and you're just immobile and so like rooted in presence. Like the stillness is so all encompassing,
mm.
and the most lovely, like everything. It's like you need nothing else but this quiet and this stillness. And
Wow.
he just sat there, and it just held us all in this silence for a long time, and I never wanted it to end.
Oh, wow. That sounds incredible. Um, so I'm wondering, like, when he did leave his body, do you feel like that presence left as well, or do you? I mean, it sounds like you still can connect with it when you're in a deep meditation,
No, all the
um,
time. I don't
all the
even have
time.
to be in a deep
Mm,
meditation. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, you ask for it and it's there.
yeah,
I find,
uh huh,
like if you have a beloved or a loved one or an ancestor that's passed or a pet, if you think about them, it seems like they're right there with
yeah.
you.
Ask for it, and they're there.
Yeah, they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, you just ring the bell. They're like, yes.
Just hanging out here, waiting to be
Well,
waiting for you
that
to
was
ring the bell.
even though I was filled with so much grief that
Mm,
he had passed, I
hmm.
also knew that he was more available and accessible,
Right.
not
Yeah.
just limited to his body like
Yeah.
he was before.
Mm. Do you feel like that particular grief process gave you any gifts or lessons?
Hmm. Hmm. Well, it's there's like a tenderness, like an open-heartedness in that, and the depth of those tears, and just like feeling the loss and the love so fully that it's actually really beautiful in its heartache. Because while the heart is aching, it's the heart that is aching. You're so in your own heart
Yeah.
in that time. So the pain has that beauty too,
Yeah.
if you can be with it. And yeah, then knowing that he's freed from his body and he is here. He didn't go. It's actually it's not like he didn't go anywhere. He went more places. Now he's everywhere.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. I feel like, our culture isn't the best at handling grief or going through loss. So I just feel like the more stories we get out there uh, can only help others,
I was just
hopefully.
listening to Here and Now, his podcast yesterday, actually,
Mm.
while I was in the yard gardening. And it was the recent one where he was telling the story of him having been told by Tim Leary, his old buddy, that he was dying, that Tim Leary had
Oh,
pancreatic cancer. And so it was him telling, Ram Dass sharing how he went to go be with Tim. And he's like, and I'm going to watch how he does it. And it was this exciting thing. And how Tim did his best to make his death into a celebration. And in the podcast, he's even saying, like, everybody needs to learn from Tim. And like, this is how you die.
right on.
Like, it's a party.
Wow. Yeah. Well, we'll definitely link that episode in the notes down below because that I'm going to check that out tomorrow morning when I'm walking the dogs, I think.
Yeah, it's
Sounds
worth
like,
a listen. It's
yeah.
right on topic with what you're asking.
Perfect. I love that. Um, I wanted to touch a little bit on your ketamine therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and just it's sort of like if I feel it's growing in its people knowing it exists and what it does, or at least knowing it exists. I feel like a lot of people still probably aren't quite aware of why someone would want to have ketamine therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So from your experience, I mean, I know one reason is it's legal, so that's a positive. But what, in your experience, does ketamine? What sort of
Like,
ailments does?
why would anybody like to do it?
Why would anybody like to do it, and what it is good to be used for?
Ah, okay. I just got, right before our session, I just had a big ketamine therapy session that I'm just coming out of. And it was the first time
Today?
I was, yeah, right now.
Oh,
I was with a client, a patient.
okay.
It wasn't
You.
mine.
Okay.
No.
All right.
I was guiding it. But it was my first time with this woman, and it was her first time with a psychedelic experience, and it was a much older woman. And so it takes a lot of courage
Mm-hmm.
to do something like that. So people often come in and they're a little anxious, which makes total sense that
Total
they're a little
sense.
worried. I get anxious every time before I do a journey, and I'm quite experienced. But I explain ketamine in working in a couple different levels. Like this woman that I just saw, actually, she kept saying, I had a fire a year and a half ago. I had a fire a year and a half ago, kind of when we were getting to like settled. And then I finally was like, okay, tell me about this fire. And it was in Lahaina, and she lost her home. She was one of the people like that had to abandon everything in the moment, run for her life.
Wow.
So since then, her nervous system has just been jacked up and
Mm-hmm.
on in survival mode. So I explained to her one of the things that it does on just a biological level is it's a nervous system reset, where she's been stuck in flight, survival, sympathetic response, and not been able to downregulate unless it goes into depression. So
Mm-hmm.
she's ping-ponging between this like hyper
Wow.
arousal to hypo arousal, which is a lot of folks are in that kind of state and they don't realize it. So this is a nervous system reset that just like clicks you into rest, parasympathetic,
Mm.
and it can feel glorious just on a biological level. And she had this experience. She was like, oh, I feel so relaxed. I feel so relaxed. She hasn't felt relaxed in
Mm.
who knows how long. So that's one way in which it works. And then biochemically or physiologically, it produces new neurotransmitters.
Mm.
So I describe it like where our typical pattern of thinking, it's kind of like a record groove. And you can think like, this is who I am, and this is how my partner is, and this is how the world is, and this is how people are, and this is how da 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 da. You have this way of thinking and being. And then you do a ketamine journey or other psychedelic journeys that kind of scrambles the brain. Robin Carhart Harris calls it the entropic brain theory, where things get chaotic.
Mm.
So you get out of the record groove and these new pathways are opened up. And then after that, much more easily can you then have new insights and ahas and understandings. And like we talked about the new patterns of previously, like just new choices and reactions.
Mm-hmm.
People will describe later when I see them again or when we have our integration, this thing happened and I would normally get really upset by blank. And I just didn't care.
Mm.
Just didn't matter. Just didn't matter anymore at all. I had another woman tell me that this morning that I had seen this week. And so that's very common, that it's just the pattern reset of your thinking minds, which is
Right.
hugely beneficial.
Getting out of the groove and establishing new, healthier grooves, perhaps.
And they happen effortlessly. So you're not fighting against yourself to think a different way. You're now thinking a different way. People often come to and they'll report, I feel stuck. I feel stuck. I've done everything else and I can't change. I feel stuck. And this gets people unstuck.
And
I've
does
seen
it,
that happen?
I'm sure. I mean, Tiffany did my wife did a couple rounds of ketamine therapy. And yeah, resonates. Everything you said would resonate with her, I would say.
And then there's a third level, which I think of as the transpersonal, or that more like psychedelic states. And people will have felt embodied experiences of oneness, God, joy, love, peace, happiness, bliss, interconnection, hope. And when you feel it and are it, it's a remembering for themselves, this is possible for me. I am this. Where prior maybe it was hopeless, like I'm just broken, there's just something wrong with me, or I can't love, or self-love is a big one. Often when I work with folks too, like another core is like really getting into the self-love space. That may take some more time, but it's generally usually a flavor that's in there. And again, like this woman I was just with, she felt hopeless. She said, my intention is to enjoy the next few decades of my life, but I don't feel like I will. I haven't been feeling that way at all. And then in the session, she was saying, I feel happy. I'm on my path.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
hopeful again.
What a shift.
Huge. And that happened in 30 minutes.
Wow. And would someone like that, would they come back for a couple sessions, or is it just dependent on how they're feeling afterwards?
Both.
Both.
Like the standard protocol is 6 sessions with ketamine therapy, but that's because that's what they did the research on. So then it's a protocol. But I think if there were research on other templates, they'd also be proven to be effective. But that's sort of the standardization is 6 sessions. But I've seen 1 session be highly effective, just one.
Wow.
Or a few. Or they're spaced out too. They don't have to be all at once.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Tiffany's was 6 sessions spaced out. Like, I think they were 3 weeks apart or something.
That's the protocol.
And I think after like the 4th one, she was like, I'm not even sure I need the next 2, but the protocol. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And so I encourage people to not think they have to do just that, because that can be overwhelming. Like, wow, that's a big commitment. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of time. And I'd say just try one and go from there.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's are there any types of people who should shy away from this type of therapy?
It's certainly not for everyone. And any psychedelic therapies aren't for everyone. If you have a history with any type of psychosis or schizophrenia and different types of bipolar, sometimes bipolar is okay, sometimes not. Maybe if it's in its active phase or not. Like I have a fellow that I just worked with that he had a mushroom journey about 4 years ago that was still recovering from.
Oh, wow.
And so like for him, I would never want him to have a ketamine journey actually. And we did something very different together, which was actually like clearing entities.
Wow. That's a whole different situation. Yeah.
Whole different situation. And getting really grounded.
There's one other ketamine question that went through my brain there for a second. I'll cut out this pause while I think of it.
Just say pumpkin over and over again.
Pumpkin. Maybe I'll leave that part in. But one other thing I'd like to ask about the ketamine is, it's definitely different than, say, a plant. And, it's relatively new. It came around in 1962.
It's a chemical. It's
a
made
chemical
in a lab.
Yeah. So, and since, how would you describe the difference between it and, say, a mushroom journey?
Ketamine is space medicine.
What do you mean by that?
It takes you to a spacey place. Think like how ayahuasca, for example, is grandmother and the vine. And there's kind of similar symbols and images and landscapes with ayahuasca. And LSD, I think, has a particular visual field. And then psilocybin as well, Los Niños, the little children. That's like, for me, a psilocybin journey is like Skittle land. It's like bright colors moving quickly and like I'm not going to say it's fun at all, but it's what it is. And then ketamine, it's like Space Kitty. It's like outer space, out of body. And, but, in that debate of, well, it's not a plant or it's not natural or it's not the same. My response to that is there's a part of our brain that it can lock into to create an experience within us. And however it's doing that, it takes me to a spiritual place within myself. So for me, it's a very spiritual experience.
Right. So getting back to what you were saying earlier about wanting to see what the human potential is.
Yeah.
And
it's another one you could explore with curiosity. You don't have to just have something you're fixing or healing to take psychedelics. You could do it just to have fun. You could do it just to that curiosity. What is happening here? Because it takes off the limiters. The brain is a reducing valve. That's what Aldous Huxley describes in Doors of Perception. The function of the brain is to block out stimulation and input, so that we can have our 5 sense experience in this shared container. And then when you take something that expands the mind, then you're opening up to other realms of perception and reality. And you can just do that to like peek in, like, I wonder what's over there. Like, DMT is a good one for that.
Yeah.
Because you're there so quickly.
Yeah. Just want to see what's going on over here.
Yeah. And then I don't know about you, but I'm always happy to get back to my body.
Yes.
Thank God.
I'd say 9 times out of 10. Yes. Always happy to start coming back into the body. And I would just want to add here, disclaimer, if you haven't done any of these things before, certainly talk to a doctor, talk to someone who has experience, have someone sitting with you. Don't do it on your own. All the safe things, all the smart things.
All the good things.
Yes.
Like the kid that I worked with recently that had the hard psilocybin journey. He was, 18 and took some mushrooms with his girlfriend and went to a Tool concert.
Oh.
And as soon as he said that, that's the response I had. It's like, oh no. Oh no. And it's been
I would not want to see them on mushrooms.
So he's been recovering since then.
Wow.
For myself, when I was 15, I took LSD for the first time with zero, completely ignorant and naive, no guidance, no protection, no prep, no integration. This is like mid-90s. I had never even really been high on marijuana. I had no idea what an altered state might be.
That is a big jump.
It fractured me. It was the full shamanic death. And I was dying over and over and over and over and over and over again. It was like demons and this whole, I was raised Catholic. So it was like, oh, this whole like God devil
Oh,
battle
wow.
scenario. It was torture, totally broke me. And I was putting myself back together. I was integrating. I didn't have the word integration
Mm-hmm.
then. All I knew was that I was fucked up, broken, and I had no help or tools, and I needed to fix myself. And so that's when I found like used bookstore, Eastern
Oh.
spirituality,
Huh.
religion, New Age, meditation.
Wow.
All of it was just reading on my own. And then that yoga I found on my own too, out of a book. And it wasn't until I started to actually do the practice, the yoga practice, that I think I really began to integrate back
Mm.
more fully. And so that's why it became such a special thing to me too, yoga,
Mm-hmm.
because it was so helpful to me in my own path. I definitely wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't have that.
Well, I was going to say have which, the yoga or the LSD journey that
Both,
fractured you, but
both,
both.
both.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, if you were
Mm-hmm.
to look back, would you be like, well, the LSD fracturing definitely served a huge purpose and directed my life, but I wish it had happened another way.
Let
And
me try
maybe,
this. Let me try this. I'm going to think this is kind of work that I do with clients. Like right now, like in my current reality, LSD scares me. And one of the reasons I get really nervous every time I take a psychedelic is because that first experience
mm,
was so traumatic.
mm-hmm.
So my old trigger is fear. I get really afraid.
Yeah.
Even if I've prepped for this journey, I want to do it, I have the perfect set and setting, everything is dialed to the extreme. I'll get to the moment when I'm supposed to take the medicine and I'm definitely like, I don't want to cross this threshold and I'm terrified.
That resonates. Yes.
So I would go back to my younger self, even right now, and just, I think in the moment, I just didn't know what I didn't know. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I had no one to comfort me. I was with my high school friends and my boyfriend, who for some reason felt like it was highly amusing to just like freak me out even more,
Gosh.
which he was very successful at.
Oh, children, children that we were.
Yes. So if I could just tell my younger self, like, you're going to get through this, you're going to learn a lot. It's an
Mm,
initiation.
yeah.
And you will be different after this, but it's going to serve you and you're not alone.
Hmm.
That's probably what I needed to hear.
Yeah. Well, they say time isn't linear, right? So maybe you're telling yourself that right now.
Hmm. And I see that a lot with folks in journeys, particularly when we guide in groups. I do group ketamine therapy and then we do group psilocybin experiences with East Forest. People are afraid to ask for help.
Mm,
They have all kinds of stories around asking for help,
yeah.
deserving it, those kinds of things. And so it was my role as a guide, really freely, lovingly, non-judgmentally giving that presence.
Mm. Well, I have seen and experienced that presence firsthand, and it is hugely helpful and calming and centering. So,
That's the intention.
yes, absolutely.
Because I
Uh,
know what it's like to be in distress. So I
yeah.
have a lot of empathy.
Well, it comes across even when you're on a journey. At least it did for
Mm,
me. So,
mm,
yeah.
mm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That
Oh,
time.
yeah. That was nice. Yeah. Hmm. Yep.
Yes. The short story there was it was in a group setting at Esalen. And I was having this experience of my grandfather's, all of his fear from the war that he could never express, like coming through me. And I was running and running and running and running, and he could never run. And I was running in place. And then suddenly this just very calm hand touched my back, and it was yours. And it just soothed everything out. So thank you.
Yeah, that's the intuitive piece.
Yeah.
You know, because I really don't want to interfere or
Mm-hmm.
interject into or interrupt someone's experience. And so I actually give a lot of space for people to process. But then every now and then there's real clear, like, just go to this person and do this thing.
Yep. Yep. And it was perfect timing. So yeah, you did not interrupt anything. So there we have it.
There it is.
So thank you so much for taking, allowing us to visit for some valuable time of yours. And just curious, tell people where they can find you online. I already said earlier you were in Boise, but you're also all over the country doing retreats and all sorts of great things.
Yeah, what I'm most excited about right now is I just relaunched my Patreon, which is an online community that I want to use for more connection. So different self-awakening practices and psychedelic integration and really that community building because I'm a little isolated out here and I used to have a studio that I ran full time, which I don't anymore, but I love to teach practices, yoga, meditation, breath work, chanting. So through the Patreon, I'm going to have practices that I'll give to folks and then just that exchange back and forth and then having a monthly group gathering too of everybody that's in it.
Cool.
So find me on Patreon.
Okay.
I just started a couple weeks ago. Maybe it's been a week, not long at all. And then my website, Marisa Radha Weppner, you can learn about different coaching or therapy or somatic experiencing or help integrating or whatever it might be.
Perfect. And I imagine there'll be a link to your Patreon there too, just as another.
And then I've got some guided meditations also.
Okay. Where are those?
East Forest music. You can find those wherever you stream music. It's an album called Guidance. And there's 4 tracks. One is an introduction to meditation. One's healing and protection, one's heart opening, and one is a long extended yoga nidra, which is a yogic hypnotic practice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good for if you're needing help going to sleep, actually. Yes. Good along those lines. So anything else for the world that the world needs to know at this moment?
Oh, when's this come out?
It'll be a couple months, probably middle of the summer. Yeah.
Middle summer. Let's see what's going to be happening in the middle of the summer. It's mid-May right now. I'm going to tell everybody, hang in there, hang in there, find community. We're resilient. We're strong. We're going to get through this. Fuck that bullshit.
I love that. Fuck that bullshit. We're going to end on that. Thank you, Rada. This was awesome. I look forward to doing it again.
Yes, me too. Thanks, Scott. It's been a pleasure.